This is our hero, also driving an MGB. Both MGBs have rack and pinion steering, a 4-speed gearbox, a 1798cc engine, and front disc brakes. She drives for pleasure. He drives to win. But in fact, the MGB our heroine is driving is very much like our heroes, except for some modifications. The difference between them is he likes to modify his MGB, and she likes to modify herself.
These 4 men form one of the quickest corporations in the world. 4 men on wheels: Bob Tullius, Brian Firstenau, John Kelly, and Jerry Truitt. They call themselves Group 44. Win or lose, this team plays each high-speed hand with all their cards face up on the table. They give the loyal opposition more than an even break, but they play to win. They play for keeps. Four hot shoe road racing drivers, the guys in the immaculate white cars who won't quit until someone hands them the checker. They call themselves Group 44. The loyal opposition calls them the White Wave.
Road Racing's White Wave is presented by British Leyland, manufacturers of these great sports cars: Jaguar, MG, and Triumph.
If you're thinking about buying a Triumph Spitfire because it's a national racing champion, don't be contemptuous of those who buy it for its Michelin styling. Consider the satisfaction of owning a car that looks as good going slow as it does going fast.
Triumph contrived this demonstration to show you how fast the Triumph TR6 stops, shifts, and turns. Although you may also get some idea of how fast it goes.
Monterey, California, one of the West Coast's most magical names, a name that triggers visions of untamed seascapes and untouched sun-bleached beaches. The Monterey Peninsula is also the site for another kind of vision, one of the most attractive stops on the Sports Car Club of America's Speed Tour, an undulating black asphalt ribbon called Laguna Seca. It was this kind of mechanical magic that lured Bob Tullius into the glittering world of club racing.
My father took me to an auto race one time. The fellow that won the race was an uncle of a friend of mine who lived a few blocks away from my house. The very next day, I was over at that garage looking at those cars, wishing so hard that tears came to my eyes sometimes that they would ask me just to touch it, or to wipe a wheel off, or to sit in it. If I ever sat in it, I'd have never got out of it. I get in a race, and for 30 minutes, I can't really tell you all about what's going on. I know what's going on up there because I feel it in the seat of my pants and my hands and the sound of what's going on, the smells. It's just a very natural thing for me to be doing.
Oh, it's very simple, really. Well, I know that, but how many sets of ratios are legal?
From the moment he put on a helmet, Bob Tullius became the most successful driver in the history of club racing. In 1965, with 2 sponsors and Brian Firstenau as his partner, he formed a racing team called Group 44 Incorporated. The success of this corporation is best described by the competition.
You know, you don't look for favors, and you don't look to get squashed off the track either. Group 44's strength is basically in that the cars they present are a total all-around picture.
They're excellent racers. They're a credit to the sport.
I think our cars, as a rule, have somewhat more horsepower, but their cars work, as a general rule, really, really well.
It's a little more exciting, a little more thrill.
It always puts a little extra urge in when you have a chance to run against us.
With Tullius acting as official spokesman and Furstenau handling the engineering and preparation genius, the group has been a dominant force in road racing for several years.
So he immediately put on his brakes and pulled out, but Madison pulled over on him and wouldn't let him by me. So he had to go around the other way, and he got off in the dirt.
Drivers like John Kelly, 1970 F production champion in a Triumph Spitfire, help make sure the white wave stays on top.
Well, it's a very interesting course. It's probably the most challenging one we've seen here in the West Coast, even more so than Riverside. Probably the most difficult part of this course is to find the edge, the fine line where you have control of the car and going at maximum speed and keeping that edge during the entire race.
A graduate of MIT, Kelly is partner in an engineering firm near the Falls Church, Virginia headquarters of the group. In his 11th year of racing, his unflappable approach to every new challenge fits the overall profile of the team.
The one back over here?
Yeah, the one at the bottom. When you start up towards the
You
gate.
weren't on the pavement is what you're trying to tell me.
On the pavement. I was up there going across that hill.
A former member of the opposition, Jerry Truitt, the only married driver in Group 44, became the fourth member of the racing quartet in 1970. Winner of the 1967 National SCCA Championship at the wheel of an Austin Healey Sprite, he drives the group's immaculate MGB.
Well, I've been boats over cars ever since I can remember. I don't know, my father was always enthusiastic about cars and always worked on his own car. And I used to help him. And it just evolved from there. And it got progressively worse, you might say.
At Laguna, Truitt met some of the West Coast's fastest machinery, led by the Joe Huffaker-prepared MGB of John Woodner, black number 29. This anticipated duel between Huffaker Engineering and Group 44 never worked out, as a flock of sleek Porsches monopolized the early traffic. Looking for his fourth win of the season, Truitt picked his spots and roared up through the pack. But as time ran out, there was still one more Porsche to go, White Mitchell's golden number 30. In C production, Tullius went to work against Lee Mueller's hot Kastner Brophy-prepared TR6. Paired with the road rockets of B&C Sports Racing, the normal traffic problems were multiplied.
Started out knowing that if I got stuck behind any of the slower modified cars that I was going to be in a lot of trouble unless the other guys got stuck too. So I had to charge as hard as possible. And in doing so, I think it was about a third lap, I charged up to a corner and snuck underneath a Porsche 904, and he didn't see me coming, and we collided, and he spun around. And I, in fact, had to make a kind of a 360-degree U-turn to all the way around and come back on the race course. And in doing so, I discovered that some of my competition had gone off and left me by about 25 or 30 seconds.
Blasting back into contention, Tullius swept past a pair of Z cars into third place and aimed for the leaders. Mueller's TR6 had a mid-engine Porsche driven by Richard Hayes.
Fortunately, the guy that was leading the race in a Porsche was quite an inexperienced driver, and he knew that I was working at catching him, and he was working pretty hard to stay out in front of me. And in doing so, he left the road several times, and it allowed that I could catch up to him. I was within about a half a second of his rear bumper when all of a sudden I came around a corner and everybody was stopped in the middle of the racetrack, which was a little unusual. I couldn't quite figure out what was happening until I was told that the communication facilities at the racetrack had malfunctioned in some way, and they red flagged the course, which means you stop immediately. Well, there was 5 minutes left in the race, and at that point I was a half a second behind, catching him by about a second a lap, so it follows that I would have passed him in the next lap. I've been racing a long time. I'm used to those kind of things on one hand. On the other hand, as a competitor, it's a bitter disappointment because winning's the thing. What I might appear to be on the outside, I feel just the opposite on the inside. I'd like to win. That's the name of the game.
Lady Luck and a red flag put Tullius in second place. Their high-speed act on the West Coast completed, the group headed home, 3,500 miles away. An endless, flat-out summer of 12 events and 48 races was just ahead. Men plugged into the world of road racing must have more than their share of gypsy blood. Drivers like Jerry Truitt frequently find themselves fighting traffic instead of the loyal opposition.
The only problem is the bouncing. Your head will get bobbing back and forth, and that's where it really bothers me. After 12 or 14 hours of that, my neck just gets mighty sore.
Is my life a journey or the destination? 'Cause right now this highway, it's all that I can see. I have left my tracks now all across this country. Perfection is the end that justifies the means. Gypsy blood must be here in my bones. Something just beyond my reach is driving me. Gypsy blood must be here in my bones. Something just beyond my reach is driving me.
The White Wave's next stop, Lime Rock, Connecticut, where the key to success, according to Truitt, is something called consistency.
Well, you want to make a car or try and get a car so that whatever it does it consistently. And if you can get it so that it will do the same thing every lap in the same corner, then you have a fighting chance of running a consistent race. It might not be quite as fast on any given lap as it could be, but over the entire race, the chances are you'll come out a lot faster.
In their last 6 years of SCCA competition, the White Wave has won approximately 7 of every 10 starts. The engineering genius behind this unprecedented record is Brian Firstenau, a 2-time Sports Car Club of America national champion. Brian is also co-founder of Group 44 Incorporated.
Yeah, it's got a lot of potential, really. It's still rather young, development-wise.
Do you think you'll be able to make any improvements in it after having driven it?
Yes, some slight improvements. Change the brake ratio around, change the sway bar settings slightly.
This was a familiar course, complete with the Northeast Division's toughest machinery and a long list of traditional rivals, including Bob Sharp. Sharp, driving a B sedan, wound it tight during an early duel with Firstenau's wailing D-production Triumph GT6. Even while leading their production classes, both men went after an overall win.
I can't say that every time I go out in the car that I drive the car to its ultimate. You get a good weekend and you get a bad weekend. Some weekends you just can't do anything wrong. A lot of it's just the thrill of working a car to its absolute limit and knowing that you're doing it to its limit, and the feeling of the car when it's constantly right on the ragged edge. It's like you're, taking a chance and getting away with it sort of thing all the time, you might say. It's quite an exhilarating feeling.
10 minutes into the race, and Sharp's Datsun came unglued. Firstenau was a runaway and hide winner.
A lot of people have an awful lot of trouble with this corner. And like you said, if you get out in all these marbles that have been picked out of the road surface, it gets awfully slippery.
Yeah, it's surprising how much small pebbles and dirt and things are up here.
Waiting for their green light, Kelly and Truitt inspected a portion of the resurfaced course.
It almost feels like it's greasy and oily. You'd think the car would slide more than hold.
Well, with all the ripples like this, I don't know how a tread surface can really conform to it, and it's got to conform to it pretty well just to hang on. It's like pieces are just being picked right out of the road surface.
You can see how rough it is here.
That final 30 minutes of speed, the sweet electricity of competition, is just the icing on the cake.
But the temperature never got over 220, and it went back a little bit. When I felt the water gushing down all over me, I looked at the temperature gauge, and it was 180.
Practice over the new surface created some serious problems, but the team's pit magicians came to the rescue. The track is the only true test of this mechanical magic. Aiming for their 4th wins of the new season, Truitt and Kelly rolled into action. Both drivers broke away from the pack early. Truitt opened a 20-second lead in E-production, hoping to take the pressure off his freshly repaired engine. The strategy seemed to work. Kelly, his Spitfire firmly in charge, smoothly walked away from the other F-production hot shoes. Ten laps into the race, both drivers began to lap the field. Victory Lane was minutes away. For the supergroup, happiness is a winning weekend.
You don't see something that good-looking every day.
It's an MGB. Sleek body and great performance.
It moves me.
The 1798cc engine has moved MGB to a lot of competition wins.
Can I handle it?
Sure. Handles like a dream. It's got rack and pinion steering and fully synchronized 4-speed gearbox.
How does it ride?
Beautifully. That race-proven suspension really holds the road, steady as a rock, even on tight turns.
Comes from a good family.
The best. MG started the whole sports car thing in America.
Must be nice to own one.
Bucket seats that adjust, even recline.
You know, if only you like me half as much as you like your MGB.
Road racing's endless summer. This is the Sports Car Club of America at speed. A club with a national membership of 18,000, which puts together a unique schedule of racing and sports car events. Members compete in a variety of ways, serving as everything from corner workers to ambulance drivers. They come from every walk of life to meet at a common point of interest, auto racing.
As opposed to some other sports like golf or tennis, you either are a pro or an amateur, and there's no in-between. Whereas in the Pro-Am series of national races, the SCCA provides you can compete with $50 or $5,000. It doesn't make much difference. You can still be a competitor. When I was hurt playing football and I was unable to continue being a competitor in that area, I looked towards motor racing, and I started out with a TR3, a Triumph, and spent maybe $300 or $400 on it in order to get it suitable for racing. And I went on because of my desire to win, I suppose, and it turned out to be 4 race cars and a big truck.
The nerve center of Group 44 is this busy shop in Falls Church, Virginia. Here, drivers and mechanics take care of endless missions impossible, preparing for another moment of truth.
The race weekend to us is our major working time, really. It's the time that we prove whether or not the work we did in the last couple of weeks was worthwhile or not. Race weekend is when you really have to get serious.
The search for answers is always a weekend away.
I think people who are destined to do this kind of work have somewhat of a nomadic approach to life. I can remember sitting here and looking out the window and watching the airplanes go by during the winter, and not having traveled anywhere in 3 or 4 weeks, wondering where they were going. Just feeling like I should be going somewhere, because that's a part of our life, always on the move.
Watkins Glen, you know, we've been here many, many years, but it's a brand new track this year, and I found out a couple of things when I was out there that might be a...
With a handful of races left in the season, the group rolled into Watkins Glen, New York, ready to wrap up another successful year on the Speed Tour. Running in a mixed bag of production classes, Jerry Truitt took on a Porsche pack as Tullius battled Bob Sharp's Z-car for the 6th time.
The first 10 laps were about the wildest racing I've had in a long time, and I know that Bob enjoyed it, and I did too, and he's a very clean competitor. There are a lot of guys I wouldn't run as close to as he and I were running yesterday.
A snapped fan belt finally broke up the 150-mile-an-hour duel as Sharp pulled away with 5 minutes left in the race. Meanwhile, Truitt, winner of 7 of 11 nationals and the points leader in E production, fought to increase his advantage. Bumped out of the groove late in the going, he was forced to settle for 2nd place. Firstenau, looking for his 6th win in 9 D production starts, and John Kelly, the points leader in F production, were ready to wrap up division titles. 5 laps into action at the New Glen, and both drivers were in command, with Bryan's GT sounding more like a Trans Am sedan than a sports car. Endless days of preparation for 30 minutes of action and the chance to reach some indescribable level of perfection. This double win brought the team's total to 23 victory laps in 47 starts. Another season thrashed into the final few pace laps, and Group 44 locked up 3 division titles and a blanket invitation to the American Road Race of Champions. The supergroup continued to add to its already incredible track record. Road racing's white wave.
Is my life a journey or the destination? 'Cause right now this highway is all that I can see. I have left my tracks now all across this country. Perfection is the end that justifies the means. Gypsy blood must be here in my bones. Something just beyond my reach is driving me. Gypsy blood must be here in my bones. Something just beyond my reach is driving me.
For membership information, contact the Sports Car Club of America. Road Racing's White Wave was presented by British Leyland, manufacturers of these great sports cars, Jaguar, MG, and Triumph.